All right, welcome everybody to today's ERA Live. Thanks for joining us today. Our topic is best practices for college recruitment and tips to building your future workforce. We have three very passionate and knowledgeable guest presenters on today to talk about this topic. The first is Ellen Coan, Vice President at CC Electro Sales. She is also the Senior Vice President of Education for ERA, and she will be moderating this session today. The second is Zach DeVillers. He's president of Brainard-Nielsen Marketing and the president of Chicagoland, Wisconsin ERA. And then our third presenter, who is not here yet because he is teaching a class, he's finishing up teaching a class right now, is Alex Gabbi. He's a professor at the University of Texas at Austin, the McCombs School of Business. Before we get started, audience members, please be sure that your devices are muted. If you would like to ask a question, please type them in the chat box and we will try our best to get to them as time allows. This session is being recorded and we will post a recording on our website and our YouTube channel within 24 hours of this session ending. So with that, Ellen, I'm going to turn it over to you and we can go ahead and get started.
Great. Thank you very much, Claire. Zach and I are reps in the field that have been going to college campuses recruiting for several years now. So we both have some tactical tips we want to share, but I wanted to be just tell you how ERA National is supporting you and the things we're doing there. And then Zach was going to get into more tactical things that he's doing, but I might sprinkle in a couple tactical things too. So we're both very passionate of founding new talent to restock the pond, as the infamous Walter Tobin has told us. That is our goal, and we all know we need it desperately. One of the things, there's three things that I am doing at ERA National to support the reps in this endeavor is, first of all, taking the chapter to the college. So I went to Purdue, for example, and I registered as Indiana, Kentucky chapter. And that way I was able to share the students, the resumes that I got with the whole chapter and across the country. Because as you know, students are attending college from all over the country and the world for that matter. And we can share those with each other with our chapters. So we're trying to support that. And one of my questions I have for you, as you sit there and think about college recruiting, what college comes to mind? If anyone could put that in the chat, maybe Claire could tell me a couple of the colleges that come up. If you're not driving, I know some people listen to this while you're driving, I get that. But if you could share that with us, just to kind of start the process of thinking what college you would like to recruit from. And then as you think about that college, think about talking to them and finding out what degrees they offer. So I talked to University of Michigan Ross School of Business last week. I had met a student at the Detroit Battery Show. It was kind of a crazy meeting, and then called this associate dean, and she shared they have dual degrees that would fit. I first shared the video that we have, the 3-minute video on what is a rep, because our goal in going to the colleges is to educate all the students on what the business model is. So in doing that, she watched that and she said, wow, I never thought about that career. And here's what I think would fit. And they have something called a dual degree, which I've talked about a lot. Business and engineering is one. They have a professional sales minor that any degree can add. They also have an entrepreneurial certificate. So many of the schools, and then there's always the true engineering track as well. So those students, which we all would love to have as technical sales people, would be ideal, but sometimes that business savvy also helps as well. So some of the things to think about when you're picking the college, asking what degrees they have. And then I feel like once you talk to a professor or the dean of your school that you've chosen, then the next thing to think about is their career center. And usually that leads to a job fair. And that's where Zach and I have done several job fairs. And we'll talk about how we've gone about doing that. And there's a process or a app, if you will, called Handshake that Zach will talk about. But a lot of different ways that they kind of vet us as well. And when you go to the job fair usually have a table, and I was between like Garmin and John Deere, which had very long lines of students. And I just sat there patiently, and some people felt sorry for me and came and talked to me. But I did meet some dual degree students this past time. And one that I really want to share with you is a student from Northern California, Jonah. And I know I've talked to Lori about this. He came back to my table twice and he said, "How do you get your leads?" And on my table, I have like components and I have stickers. Zach taught me to put a sticker down there that has like their mascot or something and says era.org. So, maybe they walk away and they go look at our website, era.org. And anyway, Jonah came back again and he asked, "Where do you get your leads?" And then he came back a second time. He said, "How long's your design cycle?" So, I mean, he got it. And I think these kids just are listening to what we're sharing with them and realizing the potential of this career path. So another thing I put on my table was I put a sign that said technical sales. That's what I feel I was looking for, but it could be marketing, it could be data analysis. There's other jobs within our rep firms, I understand, but I put technical sales, I said worldwide manufacturers and cool technology. Just some simple bullets so they kind of knew what my table was about. And then the conversation would start from there. Um, these job fairs, Alex, Gabby, and I kind of disagree on this. He thinks that the job fairs are to create revenue for the schools. I understand that they want to charge sometimes. My job fair at Purdue was free. It was a STEM specific job fair. So you might find that. Uh, I feel like there may be a charge and every school is going to be different. And I really want to think about the chapter and ERA National maybe helping support that cost. So if you have that concern, just bring it to me and let's see what we can do. Because I really think exploring at the colleges, getting our role model out there is really important, and doing it as a chapter, you're going to share with each other. And I'm also going to join Ama and Cam in a couple weeks at the Colt training and try to encourage the chapter to either, I don't know how to do it with bylaws, but create a job within the chapter board or someone at the chapter that this is kind of their thing, is to go to the college, get the job fair, the career fair set up, those kinds of things. So try to help the chapters create that excitement there. The second thing that ERA National is offering, and I think everybody on the call knows, but if you don't, I want you to know about it, is our White Pen internship. We are actually giving you money that, and as Walt says, that's real money, towards hiring these interns. And it can be a summer, and Zach's going to talk to this, how he stages his interns, but it's money for your intern to pay them. And it's $2,000 from White Pen. And if you don't know, White Pen are individuals that volunteer at the ERA national level and have done it for 3 years. And it's just a community of people that really want to give back and help ERA and help the reps and restock the pond, if nothing else. And they do fundraising. So this fundraising is then given to the internship. So $2,000 from White Pen, $2,000 from National, and then the rep makes up the balance of whatever they have agreed to pay their intern. My experience, and Zach can comment on this, is roughly about $18 to $25 an hour. So if you're looking at a 10-week summer, it's like $6,000 expense, roughly. I mean, I'm just giving you some ideas. So the White Pen internship applications will be available November 1st. We're getting those out for next year. I know there have been some career fairs now, and there's always career fairs in the spring. But there's also job boards, and I think Alex Gabbi will talk to that. So there's job boards, there's career fairs, there's other ways to get to a college and talk to them. I've even gotten a book of resumes from Purdue now, from the Career Center. So that's another thing that they offered. With the White Pen internship, we've got a curriculum idea for the 10-week session. That's on the website. Some of the, we've had internship scholarships awarded the last 4 years. And some of the interesting jobs that they've given their students, one of them was commission recovery. I kind of called it forensic accounting. And they actually recovered commission that had been lost or forgotten or whatever from their principals. So that was a benefit. Someone else had them do a Power BI dashboard. So I want to also give you my third new thing that's coming is a technical sales career hub on our era.org website. And that's going to be either under online tools or resources. Claire and I are working all that out. But I want to have a place that the students can go. They can watch that 3-minute video. We can direct the colleges to go there if they need to see something as well, but also all the tools for the reps. And I want to take this conversation today and put it into a PowerPoint, the highlights and some of our tips and tricks that we'll share here today. And just keep adding to it. I'll also put a list of all the winners and the jobs that the students had done for them. And any other ideas that anyone has, I really hope that Claire can share my contact information in the chat as well. And please reach out to me with any ideas or questions you have after this, after you've thought about it. But more than anything, the energy, the curiosity, the creativity that these interns bring to your office is really priceless. And I hope you can hear my passion about restocking the pond and getting to these students and letting them know what this career is all about. So with that, I will hand it over to Zach.
Sure. No, that sounds good. Um, so much to be said on the of what ERA is accomplishing with White Pin, with the scholarship program, with internships. I'll talk a little bit more about the tactical side of it. I've had I currently have two interns right now. I've had as many as three at one time, and I've really taken a great appreciation for having them in my office. I don't look at it as a short-term 3-month situation typically. I look at it as a longer term through school planning and succession within the interns. And what I mean by that is I try to have my interns learn off of each other. So by having just one, typically you've got a lot of investment. You're making that you've got and if you have it in a short time frame, it really can take a lot out of you. And I think people a lot of times do it and they're exhausted by the end of 3 months and then they lose the person. So I've taken a different approach. So a couple things that really, when I look at choosing the college and where I recruit, first and foremost, I look at location. So wherever the colleges that are near an office, one of your offices, if you have multiple, I look at it and my office out of Milwaukee is ideal. I've got Milwaukee School of Engineering, I've got Marquette University, I've got UW Milwaukee, all with engineering programs. And I tend to build my curriculum around that engineering focus. I've had electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, and software engineers. I have had marketing as well, but I really focus on that engineering uh, for a lot of different reasons. And one of the reasons why I focus on engineering more than anything else is because as you get into it, whether or not you retain an engineer at the end of your internship, they are likely to go out into a wider pond that could be your customer. And with that, you gain those resources, you gain insights into your customers that you wouldn't otherwise have. So I tend to stay on the engineering side because they're also my customer. Um, yeah, so again, for location wise, I require my interns to work in the office. I don't feel like they can work off of each other or off of me effectively if they're working remote. And I've had that actually. Ellen uh, and I shared our first intern. I had a Purdue intern over summer who then said he wanted to continue and work remote. And I said, well, that doesn't necessarily work, but you know what, you're in Indianapolis. I'm pretty sure I know another rep that might be interested. And now Miles now works for Ellen as an intern. So, when I look at it, I really feel that something in proximity to your office, in office, and I personally like the engineering factor that goes with it. Um, Trying to get started on this from a tactical standpoint. I'm assuming everybody knows what Handshake is. If you know what Indeed is, if you know what anything else is, Handshake is what pretty much all of the colleges and universities use for students and alumni to get out internships and job postings, whether full-time or internships. Um, just as an FYI to get started, so if you haven't done it, highly recommend it. It's easy to set up a profile. You can connect with the schools that you want to work with. And then you can get approved by those schools. They go through a small vetting process typically, and then you're approved. Um, once your profile's set up, you can then go ahead and actually post internships on their job boards. They share it internally to their school specifically. And in many cases, I've had resumes come across just from that. But what's even bigger and better is then you get access to their career services. You find out about the career fairs. You get invited to them, and some are free, some are pay for. Most of them that I've been to, you pay for. It's not a huge sum, but once you do that, you get to me, it just widens your network of what you have coming in. So when starting kind of at a new college, I have some steps that I kind of try to do. Once your handshake is all set up and you're ready to go, ultimately, if you can get to a career fair, and I like the idea of chapters getting involved to a point where we're collecting resumes that can be shared amongst the different reps, even amongst manufacturers. I've shared, good example, I had MSOE had a electrical engineer and mechanical engineer that were over from Germany. They were studying here. I happen to know the auto rep who is in Germany, and I shared, they're like, well, once we're done with school, we're gonna go back to Germany. And yeah, it didn't work out, but they at least interviewed and talked with each other and worked off of each other. But the fact of the matter is, sharing, those kids are so eager to get out there, learn. I think as Alex said, it's a buyer's market. We have the ability to really shine where kids are looking for jobs right now. So, but that sharing process is something that I think ERA is continuing to work to achieve. So chapter wise, Ellen's been a perfect example of it. Chicagoland, we've got to get there ourselves. And most of what I've done is kind of independent. So again, the beauty of the career fair, to me is I've had upwards of 40 engineering resumes in one stance. So not only do I get to explain what a rep model is, I get to tell them and show examples of my lines. I get to share the types of projects and programs and designs we get to get involved with. And then I get to go, all the other people here in this room, the Milwaukee Tools, the Generacs, all these other OEMs that are out here that you're going to go talk to, we work with all of them. You aren't stuck with one OEM, one application for 16 to 18 months. As a sales engineer, you get to grow into working with all of these different OEMs. So the diversity, I think, intrigues a lot of people. So that's one aspect that I've really found to be beneficial. The outside of being able to explain what the rep model is, and I think the other big piece is, even if I don't hire them, I try to interview 7 to 8 people after a career fair. And I do that because they show up at my customer and I get an in. I get their individual contact information. I get to put a name with a face. I get to utilize it later. I've got people at Komatsu. I've got people at other OEMs that I truly get to go out and call on, that I've built a relationship. And if you do decide to pick a career fair that you're going to year over year or fall, spring, each session, you get to know the sophomores and then the juniors and then the seniors, because they'll stop by and say, hey, how's it going? Even, whatever the case might be, they start to get to know who you are, the model, everything else. So, those are some of the benefits that I truly get out of the career fair, even if I don't end up hiring one at each career fair. So, I don't know, questions, comments, those are some of the feedbacks I have on that. So,
Just really quickly, Zach, I don't know if you mentioned this. Is there a fee to sign up for Handshake?
no, I haven't run across anything that charges a fee. So,
Okay. And do most schools charge to exhibit at their job fair?
yeah, so Ellen said Purdue, not necessarily, and I think some are, I've done, University of Illinois in DeKalb, and I think that one was, maybe $150. I don't remember what it was, but then you go to some other ones and it's $1,000 or 1,500 or whatever the case might be. So it varies from school to school. So it's kind of all over the board, but I still find it's definitely valuable. And if you do pull the resources from both the chapter level and maybe national level to put those funds together, it's really minor. And then you get to go back and you get to go, hey, any reps looking for something, you can share those resources, right?
Zach, also, I just hopped on. Sorry, everybody, I was late. But another thing that's, I think, very advantageous to career fairs is meeting the recruiters from the companies. So it's a great opportunity to also network with the recruiters of the other companies in addition to the students.
And that's a valid point. I know somewhere if it's a specific engineering, I've actually run into a lot of my customers at the career fair because they'll actually send engineers with HR, right? So anyway, just any other questions? Otherwise, I can, from a standpoint, if you want, I can kind of get into how some of the things that we do within our internship and how we structure it. For us as Brainard-Nielsen, so much AI development, so much account research, all the data that we have at our fingertips now, whether it's first time buys, whatever the case might be. We do a lot of, hey, we identify the accounts where we see potential, and we typically strive for juniors and seniors who have a little bit of background, try to promote our products, get their knowledge base behind the products that we offer, and then we have them do account research, whether it's digging in using AI models or whether it's digging in doing teardowns, whether it's digging into installation manuals, whatever the case may be, to identify all those different areas where us as a rep firm can fit within those accounts. It's also a place where you can utilize it for marketing, right? So if they're digging that out and you want to do specific account-based marketing, you can really tailor that in. And that's where one of the biggest areas we've seen a benefit. So plus you also kind of have a pre-call plan done when your sales engineer goes out to visit the customer. So
Zach, we have a question in the chat. Do your interns work only together or do they also work with the rest of your team? And
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And how do you manage the interaction so that all parties benefit?
Yep. We actually have categorized our interns, and so when they're starting, we've got different people in the organization that try to be product experts on our line card, so that maybe 2 of the trainings are done by one of our sales engineers. So it gets spread across multiple. So as they get to learn our products, we spread that out so that there's interaction there. They get to know each one of our team members. And then beyond that, absolutely. So I've got Sam who's working with Gabbi on, hey, this is a new account in my territory. Can you help me dig down, dive into it? And then, another category that we've thrown onto it is, okay, how do we give them sales navigator? How do we have them pull out the right types of engineers that we need to be talking to? Those are all aspects of things that we kind of try to guide. So they do slowly get to learn the sales side of it. And once they start getting that, once we start getting meetings at maybe a new account or based off of something that they've done, our sales engineers will take the interns out on the sales calls, and having them actually present a portion or a snippet of the sales meeting, I think gives them an idea of what we do, and it gets a lot of buy-in on our industry and on what we as the reps do out in the field, right? So yeah, we absolutely engage our team as often as we can, but also without too much interference. By starting it out where they might be working 8 to 15 hours a week during the school year. I try to start them out during the school year so that they can learn bits and pieces over time, so that by the time summer comes around, it's not a heavy load to pick, right? They kind of get into a rhythm, they know what they're doing, and then they can kind of go. And you do have to kind of get to know pick your interns based off of, they have to have the ability to work independently as well as a team. So if that answers the question.
Thanks, Zach. I think that's great. And then if we could hear Alex from the academia side, your input for recruiting at colleges and just the things you're hearing and seeing and the rep model being expressed there.
Yeah, sure. So I think Zach did a fabulous job of covering sort of the traditional channels to recruit. I'll add, there's one other official channel that I think some colleges have. They may have their own job boards. So I know we at the University of Texas do. So I would just check into that as well. So I guess probably the best place for me to start first is just on the recruiting side. And Ellen, you can stop me, if I'm going in a direction you don't want. So on the recruiting side, I'll just speak more on sort of the more unconventional ways to get in front of students. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm a professor in the business school at the University of Texas. So I've got a little bit more of a business recruiting mindset versus engineering, although we do have a joint business engineering program as well. So I guess there's a couple of things that immediately come to mind. So the first thing is there are a lot of courses that have a requirement to source projects externally. And those courses fall into the kinds of courses you would want to be involved with would be two main types. One is what we would in academia call a capstone course, which is the last course that a student would take to fulfill their major requirements. So in those courses, you're going to be getting seniors, frequently graduating seniors, because typically those capstones are in the spring. And so they're going to be about as sophisticated as they're going to get before they graduate. And so they would be able to add value in a project, but it's also a great way for you to screen candidates, because you're going to have 4, 5, 6 students on a student team that you'll get to know well. And you have the opportunity to cherry pick the best of the best because they're going to be recruiting. So that's a great way to kind of find students. And it's pretty easy to find. Like a very minimal amount of research will lead you into who the capstone courses are, because you can just jump on any university's website that you're interested in recruiting it, look at their major plan, figure out what the last course is that people need to take to graduate, and then just look up who the professor is and get their contact info. The other category is what we would call or look like practicum classes. And at least most engineering programs and business programs that I'm aware of, at least at top schools, have an internship requirement that you need to fulfill to be able to graduate. And frequently, if a student for some reason isn't able to fulfill that requirement with a regular internship, we obviously still want them to graduate, so we have to give them a way to fulfill that requirement. And the way we do that is through completion of a practicum class. And a practicum class is basically exactly what it sounds like. So it's a student or group of students working with a company exclusively, not doing any other coursework, and just working on a project for an entire semester. That essentially is a sophisticated enough project that it will fulfill the requirements for an internship. So same as before, exact same techniques to identify those classes. For us, all the practicum classes have a whatever the course number is, followed by a P designation. That'll tell you that it's a practicum class. But I'm sure everybody has their version of that at top business schools and engineering programs. So that's the second way to recruit students. And then the third and final way I would say that's a little bit more unconventional is working with any kind of student organization. So like at UT, we've got several engineering groups that are designing off-road vehicles, racing vehicles. The business school has lots of consulting organizations, marketing organizations, you name it. So, and those student orgs are always looking for people from industry to come in and talk to them, meet with them. And so that's a free way to get exposed to 20, 30, 40 students that typically will skew younger. So honestly, students are earlier on in their college career, freshmen, sophomores, are doing student orgs as a way to get experience and get exposure. So you're probably likely to find less juniors and seniors and more freshmen and sophomores.
I forgot, I did, one of my interns I wrote, they had an idea for what their project was, and then I wrote how they successfully completed that, so they got credit for being an intern. So I think that
Yep.
kind of plays to the practicum, you call it.
Yep.
They get credit for the internship. I don't know, Zach, have you ever had a student?
Yeah, that's what I had to do. I had at the end of it, I think I submitted something at the beginning. So I hired them I hired some of these during the school year, but then once it came down to summer and having an internship, I had to give a bit of a curriculum, and then at the end of it, I had I'd give a summary of everything,
Yeah.
and the professor reviews it and accepts it.
I actually
Yep.
got interviewed too by the professor. They came to our office to check us out.
I did that
Yeah.
too. I did it
Yeah,
over a
I
beer.
passed.
Mine's in Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in essence, you guys were doing that. You guys were helping certify the internship. So in the
Yeah.
cases when that wouldn't happen, you would be doing some of the things I was talking about. Another way that typically happens is what we have independent studies. So that's another way for a student to just work on a project they care about. So for example, if you do have like an intern that you're carrying with you outside of the summer, it may be beneficial to them for their internship work to also be counted as an independent study so they can get course credit for it. So that's something to definitely ask about because I think that would be could be a valuable thing to offer.
Yeah, to piggyback on the capstone projects, the senior projects and whatnot. So I've gone through a couple of these where, there is the option if you've got, I mean, we're in the electronics industry. So as you get into some of the engineering capstone projects and senior design projects, we've got, every one of us has the right kind of lines on our line card to go back and go, hey, would you be interested in helping sponsor? And that's where like getting to know the professor, and helping sponsor some of those capstone projects, you can really you can really kind of, hey, I've got the motors on it, I've got X, Y, and Z, and this is what we want to develop. So it gives exposure to everybody, but you also get to get in and potentially grade. You can be on the little jury to review the different capstone projects, which is kind of exciting, I think so.
Well, and this is where Steve Cholis had the question about our manufacturers sponsoring any of this. And I think that's where that opportunity is right there, is to get your manufacturers involved in the sponsoring of the students and just, again, just expanding everybody's understanding of the rep's role. And
Yeah.
we're doing this all to show our manufacturers that we are definitely looking for new talent, working on our succession plans, all of the above, and trying to share the rep model to the industry as a whole. So,
Yeah. But, and I think, one thing that's come out of it for me that truly is I find so valuable is the fact that I'm learning what these kids are being taught in school and what they're coming out with. And I mean, right now, to me, that challenge, our day is harder and harder as a sales engineer to be in front of the customer and know how to react with the customer, how to get those appointments and connect with them, build the relationships. And having their guidance on a continual basis is truly, I mean, I learn as much off of them as they could ever learn off of me. So,
yeah, definitely.
And
Anybody? Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, Zach said something earlier that um, he kind of said, I mentioned it, so I just wanted to follow up a little bit on what he said, which is this is a special moment in time. And it's a moment where there's a lot of opportunity, I believe, for the business, for y'all's businesses to get exposure, because it's very much a buyer's market. So there's a lot of research, and you don't even need the research to prove this. I'm sure all of you see this anecdotally, that there's significant risk of employment, right? Opportunities, particularly for undergraduate students. So my MBA students are not feeling this at all right now, but my undergraduate students are definitely very concerned about their job prospects. Um, and so, you know, ears that may not have been willing to listen 2 or 3 years ago when you use the word sales, right, are now more willing to listen. So our professional sales minor, for example, is growing by leaps and bounds, because people recognize that sales might be a little bit more of a job disruption resistant kind of career. And so I think there's just a lot of opportunity to reach out to professors and say, who are your best kids? Can I talk to them? And get to students and get their sort of attention, for a career that they may not have considered otherwise, just because right now there's just a lot of concern, consternation, um, in that space of just getting, and there's the most recent one that comes to my mind is a Stanford research report that was just published that pretty much demonstrate that there is sort of the unemployment levels among 22 to 25-year-olds, which are our graduating undergrads, are higher than the average. Um, so just something to think about, right? It's not a great thing to say, but it is a buyer's market. So you may have opportunities to get attention that you may not have otherwise gotten, as an industry before.
Hey, Alex, in regards to that, Steve Cholis is asking in the chat, what are you hearing is an acceptable entry level for pay that students may be expecting?
Yeah, I can give you explicit numbers on this. So I would say there's three categories of jobs, let's say, out there, right? So there's um, the high end jobs, which for us would be placements at like top consulting firms, the Deloittes, the Bains, that kind of stuff, top investment banks. Undergrads in those positions are making north of six figures, easily, and sometimes significantly north of six figures. Um, and then I would say there's sort of sales positions at um, tier one companies, right? So think like AWS, Oracle, SAP, and those positions are also, right at six figures. But for positions at, startups or small or mid-sized companies, um, for sales specifically, which I think is what most of you guys are interested in, but I'll speak to marketing in a second as well. I've seen in just the past month, I've had recruiters approach me, and their packages generally have ranged from like low 70s to low 80s, all in, like with the performance-based comp, is kind of what I've been seeing. Um, and marketing is probably, so for marketing and data analytics positions, probably 10,000 below that, so 60s. Now I will say, and I obviously I'm biased, but we're talking about our institution is top 10 in almost every business major, so we're probably going to be at the higher end, in our engineering program likewise. So we're probably going to be at the high end of what undergraduate ranges are getting because of the reputation of our school. But those are the data points that I have.
And as far as the internship kind of range, I think it really also is dependent on the school and the location. You go to Chicago versus Milwaukee market versus go out to the West Coast. We had a software engineer here who decided he was, got him all along, and he wanted to go internship with one of the big guys out on the West Coast, and the price point was north of $35 an hour versus around here it's going to be in that $18 to $25 range. So
Yeah, and just to support what you said, Zach, that's what we pay our interns. So the companies that I run outside of UT, we pay our interns on the very, very low end, $15, but most of the time $20 an hour for
yeah,
the summer.
yeah, yeah. One of the other things that I think Alex brought up, that you brought up when we were chatting before, was the policies on AI and the schools that you align with, and their
Oh
policy
yeah.
on AI.
Do you want me to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So it's interesting. I'm sure all of you, either through kids, grandkids, or whatever, sort of or experience this firsthand in education, and kind of seeing how different institutions at different levels are enacting policies around usage of AI. And I would highly, highly recommend that you not even waste your time recruiting at an institution that has very stringent no AI use policies or limited AI use policies, because that's not going to help you. You want people that are not learning how to use AI on your nickel. You want people that are coming out of school having taken classes that directly integrated AI and use of AI and applications of AI into the curriculum for each course, so that when they come work for you, you're not teaching them how to use the tool for your application. They've already used it in a class in a similar application. So I would definitely not be afraid to, most schools publish the syllabuses for classes. So pick 2 or 3 sort of sample classes that you think would, develop beneficial skill sets for the jobs that you're trying to hire for, and look at the AI policies. And if you don't see a very flexible AI policy where AI is integrated, I would not. I would shy away from that and find a school that had stronger AI policies.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we over our time limit, Claire? Or do you have more questions? I'm sorry.
No, we have more questions. We're on till 5:15 if we can.
Oh,
So,
okay. Okay.
yeah. Alex, I have a question. You had mentioned yesterday I think when we were talking about, should reps use the word sales what do you think about that? Should they use the word sales when they're kind of advertising themselves to new hires, or should they call themselves consultants? How do you think sales relates?
Yeah, I guess that's a great question. So, as a general rule, I would say no, don't use the word. So, I'll give you a few caveats. So, as I mentioned, we have a professional sales minor, and I'm sure other institutions have sales majors or sales minors. In those cases, of course, it's fine to use sales, right? Because people are self-selecting into being okay with the term sales. So, if you're recruiting from those minors or those majors, you're okay. Outside of those minors or majors, I would discourage you from using the term sales, and I would actually discourage you from using the word tech, as well. Although I would say my discouragement on tech is less now than it was 2 or 3 years ago. So tech is a little bit more favorably viewed, but I would speak more in terms of, on the tech side of things, applications you enable, and on the sales side, find a different word for that, whether it's account management or, customer management, business development. So anything, because unfortunately, people that don't directly have experience with sales, their only direct experience is the used car salesperson. It's the annoying salesperson. So their reference points are not positive. They're not B2B strategic sales. And so I think if you just save yourself a headache if you can stay away from the terminology until you describe what the job is. So I've found, like, when I talk about people, just to my students, about roles in business development, right, in account marketing, account management, and I describe the job, they're like, wow, this is super interesting. I'm like, well, that's actually sales, right? But it's not the sales that you see. It's this kind of sales. So that's what I would recommend, unless people have self-selected into a sales minor or sales major, in which case, you don't have to worry about that.
And I too have stayed away from using sales in any of my job descriptions as well. I classify it as application engineering. So
Yeah, and I guess FYI, like obviously that wouldn't work for business people. So
yeah.
So but yeah, account management, business development, customer relationship management, those kinds of things would work great for business majors. And I guess one quick comment on that, because I think I got the tail end of Zach. You definitely skew towards engineering when you hire. As a professor in a business school, I'd like to also make a case for business school students. So there are, especially in the world we live in, business school students are becoming, whether they're even like co-majors with engineering, they're becoming more and more technical, and more technically astute. So I think there's, obviously I get it, engineers are great, double E's are great. But I think there's also a case to take a look at business students that have a strong technical background or technical interest, or maybe have a minor or major in data analytics and sort of think tech already. I think there's an opportunity for those kinds of students to also learn the technology.
Yep, I agree. I mean, and like one of them that we're considering is the data analytics side of it as well. Anyway.
Cool. Steve Scholas has another great question in the chat. Steve, you have a lot of good questions today. If maybe all of you could chime in on this, because you all hire interns and new recruits. What kind of work ethic are you seeing evolve from from students, Alex, and then people you hire, new hires?
Yeah, I guess I can start with the students. I think it's a total fallacy that this generation is lazy, doesn't work as hard, doesn't have the same work ethic. I think they have a different set of values. I think that, this generation, maybe in a positive way, values work-life balance, and they don't want to work themselves to death. But my students and my interns, frankly, work their ass off. So it's more about just recruiting the right people, right? And making sure that you're recruiting for work ethic, dedication, the right culture fit, et cetera. And I don't think that's changed at all with this generation. But so I think generally speaking, it's a fallacy that there's any difference. There's lazy people in every generation, and there's hard workers in every generation. What I love about the current generation, what I really love about Gen Z is they actually legitimately, many of them are out to change the world. And I think that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on it. What I've seen is a great work ethic. I mean, I can't tell you how much I appreciate having them in and what they want to contribute to the business. Their curiosity is totally different than what I've seen with any other age group. I think they genuinely want to figure stuff out, learn stuff, natural curiosity. That's the best way I would describe it. And they'll put the time and the effort in.
They also want to be in the office. That came out in some of the interviews when we have these internship scholarships. We interview the rep and intern at the beginning of their internship and at the end. And the interns, a couple of them said, I really want to be in an office, which you hear people that won't take a job because they want to work from home. I've heard that, and in our field that doesn't work, and we need that sharing and collaboration. So that's what I hear from them.
Ellen,
And
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, I think that's a huge statement, because they I completely agree with that. They are shortchanged, right? It's the most important time to be in the office is your first 2 or 3 years of employment. Like, we would probably be fine working from home 3 days a week, but the relationships that you build and the way you learn how to interact with people, especially in a sales profession, in an office, is fundamental. So I think I would actually discourage anyone from even contemplating having a fresh out not be in the office a big chunk of the time. So I'm really happy you brought that up because that's a great observation and point.
Stephen, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna mention one other thing about the capstones that it's kind of maybe a plug, but we've got a lot of resources between our manufacturers and everything else as far as products go. DigiKey's a huge supporter. I think Mauser is as well. A lot of distributors are supporters of some of these capstone projects, but the actual materials with our manufacturers, there's a lot that are, hey, we've got new products coming out, everything else, and they're not necessarily end of lifing, but it's legacy products, or they're letting certain products go end of life. The schools a lot of times would welcome some of those. It's a good way to plug your product names in the school. So just a tidbit.
Steve, did we miss any of your questions?
I think, well, thank you. I think the only one was to both the reps and to Alex, and that would be, what are the biggest mistakes that were made that you see being made, whether it's during the internship possibly that you reflected after postmortem, or during the hires, trying to keep them when they come in. So what are some of the mistakes that you learned from for not to do's, either during recruitment or during the actual hire?
I can give you a couple of observations on that. So
Yeah, thanks, Alex.
one will be the actual recruitment intern process and initial hire, onboarding, right? So just having a very, very solid, tight onboarding process to get folks integrated and productive as quickly as possible, I think is hugely beneficial. And I think there's a lot of opportunity right now. Like when I onboard people at the nonprofit, we that I run, we've rolled out and trained an AI on all of our standard operating procedures so that once the training's done, they just have a tool to just go figure out, if they don't remember something, and just go ask the tool, what's the SOP for this? Okay. And then what was really interesting to me is I had a CMO come into one of my classes a couple of weeks ago, and she said something that really got me thinking, which was, I was asking her about, job destruction and like, do you still need undergrads? And she said, it's actually interesting because now with the ones that are proficient in AI can actually take a position that I would have usually hired someone with a couple of years experience for, because they can very quickly figure things out. And so what really resonated with me there is, what I would say is, push them harder and give them more than you think they can handle, because now the ones that really know how to use the tools will be able to figure things out, and that will keep them motivated. So that would be the other piece of advice that I really kind of resonated with me when I heard this woman mention that.
Great advice, actually. Thank you.
You want me to go, or Ellen, you want to go?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I go back to the full year, and it actually goes back to specifically probably the thing that Alex said about onboarding, because I think the first time or two that I did this, I didn't feel like I really had control of the onboarding process and how much it was going to take. So by going back to, okay, I can start with 8 to 15 hours a week, and by the time they're ready for a summer of work or a full-time role, either way, then I get to decide, are they the right personality to stay on board with the organization, or B, I've already trained them along the way enough that they can have a grounded footprint once that time comes. So that's one of the big ones for me. And then the other thing was figuring out a system, because again, back to onboarding, it becomes overwhelming when it's stuck on 1 or 2 people for a short period of time. Having a system where my team could train, I had a lot of people working on the training and on that onboarding over a period of time, but we also had intern that said, hey, I want to learn how to do this. And he actually made his own agent for us, to basically help other interns go forward. So it's actually worked out pretty good, but there are so many learning curves along the way that are, whether you look at it as innovating along the way, or if you look at it as failures along the way, either way, I think you get better the more you do it. And it's kind of taking that step and learning from it as you go, in my opinion.
Yeah, learn as you adjust and adjust as you can. Another thing that ERA is doing is the next gen group with the reps. So the new talent are networking. And I think that's what I've learned is the networking is really important. You feel like you're part of a community, and that's what we're all thrive in, is when we can help each other out and make it better for everyone. So that's where I feel ERA is really trying to help recruit and retain. And just a plug for the national conference, maybe there'll be a breakout that will go into more depth about this. So please join us if you're not already. Kate's laughing at me. So
Good.
I have one last question. Sorry,
Sure.
as expected by Zach, I'm sure. So whether it's Alex or Zach or whoever, now that our industry, I'll stay focused in the US for the moment, we have passed that inflection point, as you heard me mention, Zach, at the conference, or Ellen. 64% of engineers, for example, at customers, the OEMs, are Millennial Z or younger. How is that affecting, Alex, maybe you first, your undergrad and graduate students? Are they sensing that, to see that they're going to enter a workforce of their own kind? Is that, are they thinking, or they're unaware of that?
Honestly, I think it's a pretty simple answer. Most of my students are not aware of anything other than what their immediate surroundings are. And
Okay.
so I don't think they're really thinking about different age cohorts
Okay.
in the workforce. I think they're more interested in working for companies that give them purpose and meaning.
Okay.
That's the thing they're most, especially the Z's.
Mhm.
The current generation is super interested in understanding where they work stands for versus how old or young or different people are there. That would be my impression.
I appreciate
I
that.
don't, I don't know, Zach. What are you seeing?
Yeah, no, I think we here live by passion drives our culture, and I think it's the culture you bring them into that they're attracted to. But I don't see them looking too far out. I see them looking, as Ellen can probably attest to with Miles. I'm like, he came in as an ME that is looking, and now he's truly interested in the sales side of things, and they're open to different things. I don't think they're as closed-minded as, I'm going to be an engineer. I have to do this. I have to do that, or I have to be X, Y, and Z. I think they're adaptable in kind of where they want to go and what they want to do.
All right. Thanks, both you guys. Well done. Kind of goes along with some of the thoughts that I've had, or interviews I've had. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Claire, how are we doing?
So we are at 5:15, so we're
Wow.
right
Okay.
on time. Any closing final comments, Ellen or Zach or Alex, or are we good?
I just hope that I shared the value that ERA is bringing you all to help you do this. And any questions, like we said, any of us, I'm sure, are open to helping any of you do this. It's very rewarding. It's the best I can say.
And I'll echo, very rewarding. And I think the more that ERA is doing, take advantage of it, because you're really setting your future up for success. That's, to me, the biggest piece, right?
Yeah, and I guess that's my plug. I wasn't even aware of the things ERA is doing, but to me, for these young professionals coming out of school, having an opportunity to network with other people that are in their same position, I think is actually a major advantage for attracting people to the industry, and one that everybody should be talking about for sure.
Alan, that's one spot that we talked about, right? We got to kick
Yes.
that up. All right.
Yep, we're trying. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Okay, well,
Thank you all.
yes, thanks everybody for joining us today. And thank you again, Ellen, Zach, and Alex for this great session. The recording of this session will be posted on our website and our YouTube channel within 24 hours. And I just want to say really quickly, the next ERA Live will take place Tuesday, December 2nd at 4 p.m. Eastern, and Sam Richter will be back on that session talking about SearchLink 3.0 and all the cool new features and add-ons he has built into that tool in the past 6 months. And so he will be there walking everyone through those. So we hope to see you there. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.